Okay, so good morning, everyone. This is Samad here from WeBind Education Technologies, Mumbai. As you are well aware, WeBind brings industry experts live into your classroom. And for today's session on resume writing, we have got Ms Shweta Raizada as the speaker for today. Ms Shweta speaks from experience of more than a decade, with currently working as a primary advisor for South Asian region for the company Blue Steps Executive Career Services. She writes CVs and LinkedIn cover letters for CEOs and for all the executive positions. She's here to educate us on how freshers should go about writing their CVs. So without any further delay, I invite Ms. Shweta to take over. A quick update on the colleges who are aligned with us right now. We have got Asian Business School from Delhi. We have got Karunya University from Coimbatore, SK Patel College, Gujarat, and Sri Sai Ram College of Engineering, Bangalore. Over to you.
Hi everyone, this is Shweta Raizada here. Thanks Amit, thank you so much for a wonderful introduction. Now taking forward the ideology of a resume writing, it's significant to understand why do you need a resume. Once the importance of an impressive resume is understood, crafting this document is not much of an issue. So resume is the first ever document that your prospective employer is going to see before even he sees you. So you have to put the entire crux of your education into the resume along with little experience that you have, maybe from your projects, from your internships that you have conducted. And at any level, whether it is a CEO level or whether it is a fresher level at yours, the recruiters or the HR personnel is only going to spend a couple of seconds on a particular resume. So it is paramount that we grab their attention. And for achieving this purpose, your resume has to be drafted very, very strategically. So when I say strategically, it essentially means that it needs to be crisp, concise, and a very focused draft. It needn't talk about your personal details in terms of what your father does, what your mother does, what anybody in your family does. It has to be about you. What you want to talk about your kith and kin, you can maybe do it in the interview if asked at all. And for a fresher, essentially, the resume needs to be a one-page document. It needn't be even a one full pager. Why? Because you're just starting out. You don't have much to talk about. Which is why it becomes all the more strategic approach that needs to be employed over here. So one significant point over here, the first very point I would say is the first 1/3 page of the resume, which is a very important real estate for us. Okay, it should only have streamlined information. Now the first 1/3 resume, the part of the resume can be divided into, say, about three or maybe two sections essentially. First is your professional title. Now, a professional title is something which is going to be relevant to what you are about. What are you aiming at? Okay. And secondly, the second section should be the summary section by putting a tight worded paragraph. We are not looking at bullet points over here in the summary section. Why? Because your entire resume otherwise is going to be in bullets. So you have to break the monotony somewhere. And not to forget that we are catering to very less attention span. Hence, let's put a paragraph, simple, straight, strategic. Now, to give you some more insight about how a professional title should be, it should be a clear job title at the top of your resume. It's a very significant thing to do. You need to give yourself a title which is clear and descriptive. It should not talk about your objective. It should tell the employer at a glance that what kind of position you are looking for. Otherwise, your resume is going to appear unfocused. Coming down to the summary section, your summary should be fleshed out to capture your top professional strengths to convince the reader that why you are uniquely qualified. One second. So the importance of the summary section is that your summary should be fleshed out to capture your top professional strengths, convince the reader that you're uniquely qualified for your job. What makes you stand out among go ahead.
તમારામાં વોલ્યુમ
Sorry for the interruption. A new college has joined. That was the reason of the disturbance. You may please continue.
Can I continue?
Yeah, please.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, the screen is up.
Everybody can see it?
Adishwar College, can you give a thumbs up if you can see the screen? Adishwar College? Okay.
Can they?
Yes.
Okay. So before actually crafting the summary, you need to ask yourself certain questions. That what makes you stand out among similar candidates? And what is your professional approach or your style? It has to be composed of powerful descriptions of your most impressive qualifications. This is one of the most important aspects of the resume because your summary, like I said, is going to be in the most significant real estate of the resume, which is the 1/3 page. So essentially, what are we looking at? I recommend a clear professional title and a powerful summary paragraph that will position you effectively. I can also show you an example of an effective summary for you to be able to understand it further. And these are the elements that you should include along with your background, which is going to definitely stand out. So to give you an example of a robust summary, now here was somebody who had 2 years of work experience, and he was from the finance and the office assistant's role. So here it goes. The summary that I crafted for him was experience of 2 years. You would notice I haven't mentioned, it's not a first person narrative, it's not a third person narrative. It is essentially a third person narrative without the subject. The subject is you. So that's usually understood. That needn't be mentioned. For example, if one of you is Ravi, Ravi's experience has an experience of 2 years in domain of finance, etc. Needn't be said. Just start with the word experience. Experience of 2 years in domain of finance and office assistance with exposure in handling high volume of account payable invoices, managing account receivables with mindset of further learning and development. Now, this one particular liner is of what this guy does. Thereafter, the second paragraph is where I have tried to include what he wishes to bring to the table, what he wishes to bring to the company that may hire him. So we start with his educational background, saying that he's pursuing the master degree in environmental health, along with possessing post-graduation in public health. Now, he is highly adaptable with an ability to function under stringent deadlines and work pressure. When you're a fresher, you're bound to get work pressure. You're bound to work under stringent deadlines. So this guy is equipped is what we've tried to say. Along with that, he possesses a strong inclination towards public and environment health issues. Now, the sector that he already is in, the sector that he wants to pursue further is what he needs to show his abilities in. Whereas why we would like to show the reader that he also has an harnessing ability to handle multiple projects in the same field. And he's also adept at assigning processes for concept. These are the things you need to ask yourself. These are the things you need to sort of, sit down, jot them down, and then create a draft like this. Adept at assisting processes for concept building that leads to inputs towards fulfilling unit goals. a hiring manager is going to ask, for example, why are you a significant resource? Why should we hire you? So these are the questions, these are essentially the answers to that particular question that I have addressed over here and strung them together in a paragraph so that it does not sound like you are desperate. Everybody is desperate for a good job, but at the end of the day, desperation shows and nobody likes it. So we want to keep it strategic, which is why your the words that you choose have to be very significant. So along with being adept at assisting processes for concept building that lead to inputs towards fulfilling unit goals, he also possesses a passion for delivering finest evidence and public-based environmental health practices, along with commitment to continued learning, etc. And he can handle multiple clients with sensitivity towards contributing strategic initiatives towards augmented efficiency in the said subject matter. Now, this is a summary which fetched this guy his next role because because I helped him to ask these questions. I shared this worksheet with the clients, which actually is something which helps them rekindle their thinking process about their own achievements. And when they jot those down, they are able to give me the achievements that I need to make it a robust draft. Now, a lot of students do a mistake of using something called objectives. Nobody wants to know what your objective for a resume is. That's quite understood. Objective is to get a job. So why to put it? Why to put an objective which is meaningless and which just occupies space? So to get a job, an objective needn't be put. To get a job, you need to create a stepping stone, which is your resume, in such a robust way that the reader is wanting to meet you no matter what. So when this is so clear that the objective is to get a job, you should not put it on the paper at all. The precious space on the resume should be utilized for what it actually is meant for, not for these basic obvious things. And we also discourage the objectives because they speak of your needs more than that of the reader. Who is your reader? Your reader is going to be a prospective employer. So when you put an objective, you talk about your requirement. I need a job. But we know you need a job. You need to address the requirement of the reader rather than your own. And consider how you wouldn't align begin a sales presentation by stating what you hope to get out of the deal. You never start a presentation like that. Rather, you first engage your audience with the value that you are going to bring. In this case, your professional strengths is what you should focus on. And therefore, your career goals should be implied by a robust summary rather than stated explicitly as an objective. So I hope we are clear till here that you should begin your resume, of course, with your name at the top and your contact information, which should be your email ID, your phone number. We don't need your address. Nobody is going to knock at your door. The guy just needs to know where you are from, which part of the world. So maybe you can just put the city and the country and your LinkedIn link, to which we'll come later. To the LinkedIn link, we'll come later. So after that, we come to the professional title, which we have spoken about. Thereafter, we go on to the summary, which needs to be framed the way I just explained. Then we move on to the education section. So education section is ideally in a CEO resume, of course, the education section comes at the last because that guy who has 30 plus years of experience is going to be more useful with the experience that he's bringing. Whereas in the case of the freshers like you, what you've done in the last 4 to 5 years is obviously going to be your starting point. So this section should feature right after your summary. And if you have grades to boast about, for example, if you have a CQPI which is higher than anyone, then you should not hesitate to feature them as done below in an example here. For example, this was for a guy who has done a postgraduate diploma in management and human resources, and his CQ PI was amazing. So I would like to put it here for the reader to know the kind of leverage this guy is going to bring once he is hired. And then I go on telling him about the institute that he's from, and then the location and the year he completed it. Similarly, we don't want to know about your schooling. Nobody wants to go that way back. You can leave the schooling out of this, and you can talk about, if most of you are still doing your bachelor's, then you can talk about the Bachelor of Technology, whatever your, of course, your stream is. This guy was had a Bachelor of Technology, Chemical, and his CQPR was amazing. So we put it right here so that it creates an impact immediately on the prospective employer. Then we went on, of course, to talk about his institute. Do not forget the location, and then the year. Am I audible? Someone?
Yes, you are audible.
Okay. All right. So once we have tackled the education section, we want to talk about what have we done. Even if we were studying, but what is it that makes you stand out? What is it that you have actually handled in the last 4 to 5 bygone years of your study, which can be looked at as an advantage. So to be able to kickstart your career path, it's significant to provide details about the kind of projects that you have undertaken so far. You can list down 4 to 5 most important projects, and how you list them down, it should just be it should be clear. It should not be just talking a lot. It should give the moot points, the basic ingredients in just 3 to 4 bullets. 4 is also a maximum limit. I would like to keep it to 2 to 3 actually. Why? Because again, we're catering to very, very short attention span. So we want to create the magic, the impact as soon as possible. So I've taken an example of this guy who was into change management. He had handled a change management project. So you can thereafter you can give a heading called significant projects after your education section, and then give a heading to your project that you have handled. Because if you start talking straight away, then there may not be the clarity, because the document has to be arranged in such a way that the reader wants to read. It shouldn't be shabby. It shouldn't just have it should have white space also to be able to, you know how the human brain functions. It likes clarity. So that's also one aim of preparing this resume, to be able to bring about the elements significantly, but also in a very, very clear manner. So what I have done is I had a big write-up about this project, but I have broken it down into 3 bullets. Again, we will not mention the subject. We will not say that Ravi comprehends the job descriptions or selects job incumbents. No, we just start with the third person, with the subject being imagined. So we say comprehend job descriptions, select job incumbents strategically, and conduct varied interviews along with sorting jobs. Then the second bullet is he blocks the calendar of job incumbents and panelists. He gets a scores card ready for each job on different parameters, and thereby gets the final assessment done after equivalence mapping from different assessors in the panel. And then he creates the rationale document for each job incumbent based on scores, besides sharing final documents with clients. This gives a fair idea of what this guy has done in this project. Another thing which you can also mention is the duration of the project, maybe which you can mention, over here. That, for example, if he has done this project, so you can just say 3 months. How long were you in this project for? 3 months. So you have to think ahead of the reader, of the prospective employer. So before he can even ask you, mention it. Don't give too much information. Don't give too less information. Keep certain things open-ended so that this guy wants to meet you. He wants to know more about what you have done. Give the breadcrumbs which are significant, but do not open all your cards, because you have to talk in the interview also. You can't go on repeating yourself. There has to be more value that you bring in the interview. So keep it just interesting enough. Now, so like I said, you can mention your 4 to 5 projects. Even if you have 2, it's all right. Mention something. Then you can also mention your trainings and certifications after you have handled the projects section. Talk about the trainings and certifications that you may have undertaken. It would be a great thing to include these because this talks about your progressive approach to your career. You are not just satisfied with what you're doing. You're not just sort of you want more, which so that you can contribute more to the company essentially. Now, at the very outset, if you recall, I had mentioned about something called a LinkedIn profile link, which is significant, even if you are a fresher, because the world has really come closer, much closer than we could really imagine at any given point in time. So, anyone who is going to meet you in an interview would, the moment you turn your back, that guy is going to go to your LinkedIn profile, look for you on the LinkedIn profile, and see what else is there to you than what you have already spoken in the interview. So if this guy has to keep looking for you, he will spend maybe another couple of seconds looking for you. If he can't find you, too bad. You're not progressive. You may lose a chance. But if you already provide him what he may be looking for in terms of your social presence in a professional circuit, then it's a great thing to do because you have already thought ahead. So the significance of a LinkedIn profile comes into picture. So before anybody can look for you, you should be ready. So once your resume is in place, the next step is to create or to refurbish your LinkedIn profile if you already have one. Now, what certain people do, not only the freshers, but I've seen even the CEO level guys, they just start. Can I continue?
Yes, please. Sorry for the interruption. Jaipur College has just joined us. So that is the reason there was a disturbance.
Okay. So yeah, so even the CEOs, what they do is they just create a LinkedIn by just putting their name and the designation, and then they are done. They don't do anything more to it. Maybe they just put up their job roles along with the company names, and they just leave it to them. So, but you have to move beyond. You have to offer the value that you actually have, which you do with another step of making LinkedIn a robust feature of your job hunt. It is evolving, it is a professional circuit, but it's also social, so you have to be very, very careful about what you talk about over here. You are a savvy job hunter, we know, so you need to seize the opportunity to utilize its new features to your advantage. So when you are looking for a new job, you might be tempted to choose the easy way out of simply, cutting one section of your resume and after another and pasting them into the corresponding spot on your profile, on your LinkedIn. However, doing this demonstrates a failure to understand what social media is all about and limits the information about yourself that you can convey. LinkedIn is an extension of your resume. So if you are going to just copy paste your resume into LinkedIn, you are killing your extension. You are not giving it the leverage it can bring to you. Both your resume and the LinkedIn are the tools which speak about you, but these two need to do that in a different way. Okay, now what is a different way is that resumes, like I said at the outset, should essentially be a one-pager for a fresher. Here we have reached a time where even CEO wants a one-pager resume because he's achieved so much to talk about. He can't go on to 7 to 8 pages, but he wants something where the reader can sort of, like I said, get so engaged by reading that one pager that he wants to meet him. So, but for a fresher, you have no choice. You don't have anything much to talk about, but still have to engage the reader. So, we limit it to one page, but keep it interesting. So, and whereas your LinkedIn can use a personal branding. You can't do a personal branding in a resume because it has to be a formal, tight worded document. Okay, so but in LinkedIn you can get a bit personal because it's nonetheless a social media. So there is no also because there is no overall constraint for the total length of the profile in your LinkedIn. Like in your resume, it essentially is what I've already told you about. Sorry, I missed a slide. Okay, so and the etiquette of how you present yourself in these two medias of resume and LinkedIn profile, it differs sharply because resumes are formal documents. For instance, you would never use the pronoun I in a well-written resume, while you should view your LinkedIn as a business site. It is social. So rather than conveying your information to your reader, social media is about two-way communication. It is beneficial to be personal here, personable if not personal, and that includes commonly speaking about yourself in the first person narrative. So once you are able to do that, you can include, there are many sections in LinkedIn which you can actually gain a lot from. There are over 20 sections about your certifications, your projects, your trainings, your summary section, which is a very, very significant real estate in LinkedIn. You should talk about yourself in the first person narrative in LinkedIn. Tell the value you can bring, what your aspirations could be, but you have to talk about it in such a way that you're not boring the reader because that guy is going to sift through thousands of resumes or LinkedIns in one particular day. So you have to bring that element about your uniqueness, which you yourself can answer to your own self and then sit down to make it. And also the headline. Headline in LinkedIn is also a very important part. Headline is the part which shows right below your name. So that is something which you can, it's a space which is a 120 character space. So you can really fill that space up with what you are all about, what your specialization has been, what your expertise could be tomorrow, and to be able to club everything in a beautiful manner. Yeah. So now I go to the last slide, which is about the significance of a cover letter. So when you are going to be talking about your resume, you need to introduce yourself, who you are, what are you up to, and why are you here. So the cover letter is something which is going to help you with that. It should ideally encapsulate your introduction, your educational background, and your skill set. Skill set is something which you will have to really work on. It's like I said, it's about you. So you need to work that out in terms of what your significant skill sets are. And the cover letter allows you to target the job and the employer in a very specific way, leaving the resume to market your skills, qualities, and experience as part of the bigger picture. So your resume that needs less tweaking. So your resume then needs less tweaking with each application because the cover letter must be different each time. Does that for you? So a great cover letter should not just repeat your resume in a shorter form. Repetition of a resume is not what we are looking at. It should tell the employer what it is about the job that is attractive to you and why you want to work for that employer. You will also need to include the unique skills, like I said, and the qualities you bring to that job and to the company. It needs to be written in an engaging style using keywords applicable to the job. Now, keywords is something which you can actually derive from the job description that you get from a particular company. There are multiple keywords in that. Extract those. Use them to your advantage. Leverage them. There's everything there in front of you. It's about bringing those elements out and putting it out across to the reader. So in the letter, you need to show that you have made the effort to learn about their company by talking about their company a bit, so that you've done your homework, you know what you're getting into and what you are aspiring for. And you have done that by acquiring the relevant knowledge before going to the interview if you are chosen. So once all these elements are effectively handled, I don't see a reason that you can't land into an interview. a resume and a LinkedIn profile and a cover letter is as good as the client. So a resume can land you into an interview. What you do in an interview is what you are going to, is going to decide whether you're going to get into the job or not. So you have to get clarity in that in terms of setting the aspirations correct. Setting what you're wanting to achieve out of it is what you need to be clear about. Yeah, so that will be all from my end.
Thank you so much, Ms. Shweta. So can we have a question and answer from the student side? All the colleges, you may please come near the screen and ask question, or you may use the chat box for asking questions. Ms. Shweta, if you can please stop your screen share, you'll be able to see the questions from the students.
Okay. I can't see the chat still. Can you see my hi?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Students, please feel free to ask any questions related to resume writing or cover letter.
Can I talk about it? Infographic resumes?
Yes, please. There is a question from Asian Business School, Delhi.
Yeah. Uh, Hi, Rahul. Thank you for your question. Infographic resume is something which is going to hamper your job search because what happens is when it has to be infographic, then you have to, of course, include graphics. You have to use tables. You have to use other forms and varied forms of graphics to make it interesting. Now, what you're doing over here is in the pursuit to make a draft which looks like a, a jungle book story, you actually are hampering your growth because you are a fresher. You are going to be making use of something called an ATS. ATS is the application tracking system. Now that is something which a fresher is going to widely use because you're going to be uploading your resumes a lot on these job sites that are there all over the place. And ATS does not recognize graphics, varied colors, tables, and other things like those. It just cannot read these graphics. So what it does in the pursuit, because it's not able to understand what's happening, it's incompetent to, your resume may not even get uploaded, whereas you think you've done your job, you have taken care of it, and it's not happening. So the idea is that you should keep it simplistic. You should keep it as simple as possible. Use the words mm, to your advantage rather than the graphics. Yeah.
There is one more question from Karunya University and as well as Asian Business School.
Yeah. Sports certificates and laurels one. Yes, for a fresher resume, we can put that. Having said that, it's also for you to be able to analyze, how is it directly going to help you to get that job? If you're aiming for an engineering role in a company, how is your sports certificate going to help you? How is it related? You know, whereas in such a scenario, something which was academically achieved may be of more use. Video resumes again falls into the same category of not being able to. It's still evolving, is what I can say. The part of video resumes, the part of infographic resumes, they are there all over the place. But then they have to be ATS friendly. If they are not going to be catering to the ATS requirements, your efforts are going to be futile, which you're not going to like. So I like to stick to textual resumes as of now. But infographic resumes is something which I'm starting to look at for my CEO clients. But for the freshers, I will not advise it. No. Certificates, like I said, of course, you can mention. And your extracurricular activities is, if you want to fill up your resume, of course, you would like to write about them, but you have to again see how they are aligned to your target role. How are they going to be helpful? What advantage are they going to bring? Are they related? Is it just about filling up the space, or is there any relation to your target role? If you see a relation there, then you should go ahead and put it. Will that be all?
Are there any more questions from the colleges? I guess there are a couple of more from at least Adishwar College. Meanwhile, one more question from Asian Business School, Delhi.
Hobbies. Hobby is a very, very personal thing to do. Now, your resume is professional, right? So, your hobbies, how does it help? How is your employer going to be interested? Like I said, if there's something uh, very interesting like playing a violin, something as different as that, I would love to put it. But because that talks about your intelligence level, I would go ahead and put it. But if I were to put reading, listening to music, dancing, okay, I mean, you can do that at home. Don't mention it here. The font size for your headings can ideally, I use a 14 for the name. And then coming down to the headings, I use a 12. And the content, the font size for the content is what I use as I use 10, but because we are dealing with freshers, I would use an 11 here because you also are going to be not able to fill up the page that much. So use a 11, a 14 for a name, headings 12, and a 11 for content. It should work well. You can use a Calibri body or, of course, Arial, safest and the best. I just told you about the LinkedIn profile vegan. I spoke about the LinkedIn profile already. In the areas of interest section, can we write subject other than we are working on project? I didn't get that. In the area of interest. LinkedIn profile is nothing is compulsory. Even a resume is not compulsory. How you are going to bring an advantage or what is your uniqueness is what is going to set you apart. So LinkedIn is of course going to set you apart if it's already refurbished, if it's already done. It's going to definitely, bring an impact because I would like you to mention it on your resume, the LinkedIn profile link. And if you're mentioning the link, might as well work on the profile first. Memberships, maybe you can talk about on the LinkedIn profile. And what memberships are these? What kind of memberships are you talking about?
I guess these are the engineering societies which are there in various IT or
Yeah,
electronic engineers for electronic engineers.
yeah. It'd be a good idea to mention them in your resume, in your LinkedIn as well.
Can we have a last question before closing down?
Quantifying the skill set on a particular scale to show the knowledge how important it is. Uh, who's quantified this skill?
Nisha, if you can hear the question, please answer it on the chat itself.
If it's that significant in terms of and a score which is above normal, above average, then you should put it right up in the summary when you're crafting your summary. Or, like I said, in the education section, you can mention about the way I had told you about CPQI score. You can mention this score over there. That is, of course, if it is, if it's really good, because you don't want this to work against you. You don't want to use an element which you are thinking is going to get you good results, but it can also work against you if there's nothing uh, robust about it. For this, like I said earlier, the summary section is what comes into play. I had also shown the example, I don't know if you saw it, an example of the summary, which was able to encapsulate all that the guy had done or what he aspires to do. You know, but it wasn't sounding like it shouldn't talk like an objective. Your marketing skills, which is in fact, marketing is not only qualitative, it can be 100% quantitative. But because you're a fresher, you may not be able to quantify it so much, so you have to talk about it in your summary, right up there for the reader to know what all are you bringing along with you. You can add these, like I said, these Olympiad and all, you should add if they are really meaningful. You can create a section called, you can just create one more section called progressive accolades, for example. And if you have about 2, 3 pointers to be put in that, your bullets, you can even mention your, if you have a very esteemed membership, mention that. If you have an Indian Science Olympiad score, which is amazing, mention in that. Create one more section called progressive accolades and put these 3, 4 things into that, so that it gives the weight. For the personal section, I would just recommend you put your date of birth. That is it. I don't even put that, but because you're freshers, you can just go ahead and put your date of birth.
Okay, so students, I think we have taken a lot of time for Ms. Shweta, and this will be the end of the question and answer session. If at all there are any more questions from the student side, so can they get in touch with you via Twitter or any other medium?
Uh, Yes, they can write into me.
Okay.
I can shall I give my email ID here?
Or else the students can direct the questions to WeBind, and we in turn
Yeah,
will get in touch with Ms. Shweta.
yeah, you can do that.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Shweta, for sharing your time, your valuable insight with the students, and going by the questions that were asked. I'm sure the students must have learned a lot from this.
Most welcome. Pleasure was all mine, Sama. Thank you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you,
Students,
all the
can we
students.
have a huge round of applause for Ms. Shweta Raizada here? Thank you. Yeah, give us huge round of applause. Unmute है. Thank you everyone for attending the session. I request all the students to please register yourself and go to our website, sign up and download your free certificate. Besides the student, I request all the professors to get in touch with the campus team to attend such sessions in future, because only WeBind enabled classrooms will be allowed to attend such sessions. Thank you once again for being such a wonderful audience. Have a nice day.